I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment.
So, I wanted to make a quick video talking about some breaking news. And I think is really bizarre given the lack of any official announcement from Sega about this. Which, to give you a quick rundown, Sega just dropped a newsletter update on Steam, saying they're going to be delisting over 60 games from their back catalog.
It's over 60!
With no clear answer as to what the future of these titles will be, although I do have some inklings of what will come in a future re-release, which I also want to go into since I don't really understand this tactic, given these titles all don't require intensive hardware to play, with them all being able to run on my phone or even a PS2 for that matter. However, as mentioned, Sega hasn't said anything on the reasons for these delistings yet, so we can only speculate on that front. The announcement on the Steam news update links to an article on Sega's support site with more additional information on what will be affected, which ironically, there's no information here at all! And it's worth mentioning, these delistings will be across Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and Steam, so pretty much everyone will be a little affected by this. Now, like all game delistings, if you already own these, the games covered won't go away for you and you'll still be able to play them. However, if you don't already own them, the window of opportunity for you to get them as part of this collection is closing rapidly. The last day to pick these games up will be December 6th at 11:59 p.m. PST, so a little less than a month away. After that, they will never be re-released in the same format and will probably come back but as part of another collection, which we don't know if Sega will fumble or not, considering a lot of these past collections have either been major hits or major misses. And surprisingly, this current launcher is actually really good, with the Mega Drive and Genesis games even supporting VR, in which you can play these on a CRT in a 1990s bedroom, an extra addition that I think is pretty cool. But since there are over 60 titles being removed, I'm not going to read through them all individually. However, they're all scrolling on screen right now as to not waste any time, so the only ones I'll read out are the Sonic titles, which are Sonic Spinball, Sonic 3D Blast, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, and Sonic the Fighters, which that last one we might see disappear for quite a while. Now don't get me wrong, these are some pretty good games, but let's be honest, none of these are really anyone's favorite Sonic game, so it's not too much of a panic that these might not get re-released immediately. Now, the reason I think this is actually pretty bad is without an announcement of a future collection, we don't know if that even is something that will happen, as well as the fact that these are already widely available on all current systems, and since they require practically nothing to run on a hardware level, it very easily could just be ported to whatever newer systems release. And with Switch 2 supporting original Switch titles, will be playable there as well. So I'm not even sure what more they could add, and this decision feels fairly anti-consumer, because we all know when they do re-release these in a new package with a new name, they're going to sell it again to you guys, and a lot of you who already own the originals will buy it again in this new package, because Sega is aware of the late-stage capitalist nightmare we're in, and they know they can push out the same shit over and over again, and you piggies will happily run to the trough and eat the slop as fast as you can.
Just in case anyone ever wonders if my pigs are happy. Girl.
There would have to be some pretty major significant changes, such as console quick save and load states or slow-mo or really just anything to make these worthwhile, since otherwise, it's just repackaging for the sake of printing more money, which again is odd when these titles are already available on current consoles. But at the same time, games like Jet Set Radio, Crazy Taxi, and Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 aren't available. You can only play those titles on PC and Xbox through backwards compatibility. And it's possible that's also something they're going to repack in this new collection, making it seem like these handful of Dreamcast titles on their own wouldn't be enough to sell at the price of a full release. So by cramming in all these previous games that they're now delisting, this new collection will artificially appear to have far more value to the consumer than it originally had, which from a Sega perspective, I totally understand, as they're a business with tons of executives and employees, and if they aren't constantly going up in terms of profitability, that's going to hurt their funds for producing games, with investors not willing to take a risk again if it previously failed, as well as their stock price plummeting, which Sega is a publicly traded stock on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. And don't get me wrong, while while I love Sega like everyone else, I at the same time do have my own thoughts and opinions and feel no obligation to bootlick them, which I've noticed is a trend among Sonic tubers, going around ignoring all the bad stuff about Sega and only reporting on the good. However, as I have no desire to be part of the Sega fold, I feel like I'm in a much more comfortable place to be able to speak my mind freely without having to constantly walk on eggshells, making sure everything I say won't hurt my chances at being a part of Big Sonic, or whatever you want to call it. And the reason I say that is because, again, while I do love Sega, I think they're royally f***ing up here, and this whole thing feels very anti-consumer. And for a collection, while I do think it would be nice to have Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, as well as these other big Dreamcast titles available on modern systems, at the same time, I just wish they did what they did back in the day of 360 and PS3, where Sega put out each title individually for just a few bucks. So you can pick and choose the ones you want to get, and by putting this out in addition to the current collection, they also don't have to delist all these games. The thing is, picking these games up and choosing what you want would be very pro-consumer. At the same time, it would be very not profitable for Sega. And at the end of the day, that's really all they care about. Also, a major thing that everyone is wanting, and something Sega normally does in these situations, is to put these titles and collections they're delisting on sale before they go, so that anyone who hasn't picked them up can throw a bunch of money at Sega and get everything at a reasonable price before, it leaves forever. And it seems like part of the reason they aren't putting these on sale like they normally would is that Sega actually doesn't want everyone to pick these up, since they seemingly plan on repackaging and selling these at full price later. Which this would also explain the lack of announcement when, even just in recent times, Generations delisting was covered super in depth and publicly by Sega, because internally they knew that it wouldn't affect sales, as the Shadow Editions are really what's selling so many copies, something that it turns out they were completely right about. Who would have thought? Business strategists understand business. However, with the Sega Classics collection, unless they have some secret magic upgrades planned for these legacy titles, they'll be exactly the same as before, but with a different menu and wrapping to it. So, by picking up the Classic Collection titles before December, you really are invalidating this new purchase. And while Sega might not particularly want you to, I'd recommend taking a close look over this list and see if there's anything you want to get before it gets delisted, because even I'm probably going to pick up a few titles myself. However, if you can't, do remember that these are mostly Sega Genesis titles, so you can download and emulate any of these for free if you really wanted to, and because of them being ROMs of such old games, it's not like they're going to be totally forgotten to history. Maybe while this version and the VR accessibility will be, the games themselves will still be playable, and hey, I bet some emulators have features that this collection doesn't have, and with the VR, it's vice versa. So if these are something that interests you and you really want to get it in this official Steam packaging, I'd go race over and make sure you have everything you want before it closes pretty soon. But that being said, you can very easily find more games than are available in this collection, all for free online, and not even from sketchy places, but legitimate sources such as the Internet Archive. And with it having way more content and quick save and other useful features, while you won't be able to play these in a VR headset, these are unironically the ideal way to play any of these games. So for real, don't sweat it too much if you don't have any of these, with the only exception being Console Bros, as you guys will actually be optionless for a while until something gets announced. And let's be real, with Sega not giving any explanation, whatever this new collection is will probably be randomly shadow dropped sometime soon. I'd expect it sometime by or around the end of the year, so they can soak in all the holiday sales and the super massive influx of money spent in the industry as a whole. Sega has a super long history of prioritizing the holiday season for their releases, so with them taking this quick PR hit, as I think everyone agrees this is optically a terrible move for them, they can randomly drop some new collection that has not just the Genesis games, but the Dreamcast ones too, since they are delisting that off of Xbox and Steam. Then they can use that to generate a ton of new sales, and be able to get not just the Genesis games, but everything on all consoles, which remember, besides Xbox and Steam, Switch and PS5 do not have these Dreamcast games. Nor do they have Sonic Adventure, which if they include that in the bundle, instant success. People will probably buy the whole bundle just for those two games alone. With that, I'm actually cooking. I have a bunch of videos, and I mean a bunch of videos, some absolute bops, and I'm putting a ton of effort into making these better. I want these to be like peak videos. I'm putting a ton of effort into them, so keep an eye for that. Drop a like if you liked this video. It's more of a quick news update. Subscribe so you don't miss another video. Bell if you really want to be in there early, okay? I reward my first commenters because those are the ones I read the most. And that's all. Lots of love and peace. Peace! Bye-bye. Bye-bye.